Hey everybody, it's Cam from the Nerd Book Review. Today I will be reviewing The Empire of Silence by Christopher Ruocchio. That's Ruocchio. It is the first book in the Sun Eater series. At this point, while I am doing this review, which is my second attempt at recording this video, I've now read the first two as well as the first novella, and I'm about 70% of the way through book number 3. First real hiccup with my new camera. I record the video. First off, I spend half of it looking at the viewfinder instead of looking at the lens, and then things were just weirdly focused as well. I don't know what happened. Clearly something went wrong, but I will say this, that as far as if there's a book that I have to do a second attempt at, then this is going to be the one that I'm more than happy to talk about twice. I'm just going to start off. I've already mentioned in my TBR, my end of the month review, all that kind of stuff, that I loved this book, that I think it's going to be my favorite sci-fi book of the year, and I don't know how that changes. I mean, it's going to have to take something crazy. I now have this book right up there with the Red Rising series and the Vorkosigan saga in terms of like just my favorite sci-fi. I've already mentioned this before, that I'm a space opera fan, and I don't care about the hard sci-fi. In some cases, I think the reason I like space opera so much is because the way the tech works, and it's almost magic-like, right? Because of that. Let's go ahead here and I'll do the book blurb, and then I'm going to talk about the book itself. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Obviously, we don't have a real magic system or, those fantasy elements. This is like just a huge galaxy-spanning empire and series that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be dealing with multiple sentient races. It's just crazy intense, and as I mentioned, I'm more than happy to talk about it a second time. You guys will never see the first attempt that I had, but man, it did not go well. Okay, let's do that book blurb. Hadrian Marlowe, a man revered as a hero and despised as a murderer, chronicles his tale in the galaxy-spanning debut of the Sun Eater series, merging the best of space opera and epic fantasy. It was not his war. On the wrong planet, at the right time, for the best reasons, Hadrian Marlowe started down a path that could only end in fire. The galaxy remembers him as a hero, the man who burned every last alien sealson from the sky. They remember him as a monster, the devil who destroyed a sun, casually annihilating 4 billion human lives, even the emperor himself, against imperial orders. But Hadrian was not a hero. He was not a monster. He was not even a soldier. Fleeing his father and a future as a torturer, Hadrian finds himself stranded on a strange, backwater world. Forced to fight as a gladiator and navigate the intrigues of a foreign planetary court, Hadrian must fight a war he did not start, for an empire he does not love, against an enemy he will never understand. Okay, that is the book blurb. As mentioned, this is the first book in the Sun Eater series. I forgot to mention it's 753 pages long and was published by the DAW group. So let's talk about this one. My usual world building, magic system, all of that kind of stuff isn't really going to work here. We'll do some things a little bit different. Okay, let's start off. We are, as mentioned, a space opera, 20,000 years in the future from today's time. We have an empire, the Solon Empire, that is galaxy spanning. We're talking millions of planets have been colonized at this point. As far as like the governing style, we have like an emperor, as mentioned. Then there's dukes. So we have a palatine group that are the lords, and they've been like genetically modified to such an extent that they can't even have children naturally, because if they try, the genetic sequences are so screwed up. Palatines, depending on how genetically engineered they are, can live, say 1,000 years, as definitely the high end for most people. Hadrian Marlowe, our only point of view character, and obviously the main character, he is a palatine. He's expecting his life expectancy to be somewhere like 800 to 900 years But as we find out at the very beginning, he's already 1,500 years old for some reason that we definitely don't learn in book one. And so, as mentioned, he's telling this as basically as his memoirs. He's telling his life story. And so we're probably getting a little bit of a biased, unreliable narrator, but that's not the way that it's portrayed the same way it is in some of the other books, like say Name of the Wind. In that case, we know that Koth is a unreliable narrator. I think we're supposed to see Hadrian as mostly a reliable narrator. He is mentioned as a palatine. Then below them is the patrician class. They are basically serfs or plebes who did something special. They were, good military commanders or whatever, and they have been genetically modified after they were already alive. 300 to 400 years is like, their long lifespan. And then you'll have like the plebeian class, the regular serfs, and they're going to be just normal lifespan that we would have today. If you're very, very rich, then you can go to some of the places outside of the Solon Empire, which are a little bit on the lawless side, or at least don't carry the same morality that the Solon Empire does. And so maybe you can get implants or change yourself there. For the most part, even though we're set like way in the future, 20,000 years in the future, at one point, like in the lore of the history, the AI basically took over, and there were very few humans who, weren't under the sway of the AI and who weren't ruled by it before, it was taken back. So aside from the nobility and a few of the, like say the military technology, most people are living more of like an agrarian style life without technology. Because, everyone's worried about that. And the people that want to use that technology and who do fuse their bodies to machines and things like that, those are the extrasolarians, and they're living like way on the outskirts of civilization, right? They have their planets and their space stations and things like that, but they're definitely not part of any of the normal, empires or groups of people who, even if they're not part of the Solon Empire, whether it's the Jadians or the Normans or those other groups, they're still not going to allow that technology. And the Chantry, that's their big thing is basically stopping technology. And if you don't do what the Chantry says, or you question their truth, then the Inquisition is going to come for you. As mentioned, the Solon Empire, they're like the biggest group of people in this case. There's others, though. We have the Norman freeholds. Those are, they managed to break away from the Solon Empire previously, and some of them are a little bit more on the independent side. They do have like a loose confederation. There's a group called the Jadians who kind of think like more like a Mediterranean style. They have genetically engineered themselves even farther than the Solon Empire has. So in addition to living, 1,000 years, they're also like 7 foot tall and beautiful men and women. And so there's just the tech, right, basically takes the place of magic in some cases. Then on the outside, we have the extrasolarians that have radically changed themselves. We get to see one that, they basically barely even resemble humans. Most of their parts are mechanical. Now, the main antagonists in this entire series are another alien race. They're sentient. They're called a Cielcin. Cielcin. There should be a picture up there. They're like 9 foot tall. They are vicious, they're powerful, and they also eat people. That's part of what they do is they'll raid and destroy planets, and then they'll take off all the people to eat and then move on. They live in giant asteroids, basically, and that's what their fleets are. They're called world ships. They'll move around to various places attacking. And the war that Hadrian gets drawn into, as mentioned in the book blurb, is that war. So as we start the book off, Hadrian is just a teenager or in his early 20s, and he's just not a very good palatine as far as his father is concerned. His father believes that the best way to get the most work out of your serfs is to instill fear in them. So, if they don't fill their quotas or things like that, then they're punished. They could be killed, things like that. And so Hadrian just doesn't quite have that in him. He's not, he's more of an intellectual and he's got a lot of curiosity, and he really just doesn't do the vicious fear mongering very well. An early scene where he one of the mining guild representatives, they're trying to up their uranium quota, and one of them talks back to him, and one of his guards just threatens to beat her up basically for him for talking to him that way, and he tells her not to. So his father basically thinks he's weak because he doesn't do things like that, right? So as a result, he is going to pretty quickly, his father wants to send him off to what is called the Chantry. They are the religious group in this universe. They basically have made the worship of Earth, which has been destroyed, as like their cornerstone. And their whole philosophy is that humans were clearly the first and the most advanced of the spacefaring races. Therefore, it is their God-given right to colonize all of the rest of the planets. Kind of think of the manifest destiny that Europeans had when they conquered the New World. In this case, as we go out and conquer other worlds. Before they met the Sealson, they didn't have any sort of other spacefaring races that they found, but there's I think the number was either 34 or 36. They call them Xenobites. Other races that they've found, mostly around Bronze Age technology, and they've either enslaved them or co-opted them on these planets. So basically, I think that's far enough as far as the description goes. We're dealing with just things on a truly epic scale. The fact that you have, millions of planets, you have nobility, you have everything from the emperor to dukes to, to counts, things like that, right? On the smaller scale, you have people who are living 1,000 years. And one of the things I think that really just worked for me and that I truly, truly loved was that while you have warp speed and faster than light travel, because of just the sheer size of the galaxy, it still can take, decades to go from one planet to another in some cases. So in that case, it causes people, as you travel the stars, to have to be put in fugue. That is a trope that I really like, as far as, you're basically put on ice, and you don't age while you're on ice. And it can take, decades to go from place to place. And I think that that just made things feel even more epic to me because of that. So a good example of that is that when people sign up to be legionnaires in the Imperial Army, they'll sign up for a term of, say, 20 years or 40 years, but that's active duty service time. Hadrian at one point talks to a soldier who was first enlisted more than 800 years prior, and he's only got 12 years or whatever it was, I don't remember the exact number, of active service, because he's been on ice most of the time in fugue, and when you're in fugue, that doesn't count. So it really just makes that sense that when you decide you're going to go and travel the stars and really expand, it means that you're never going to see the people that you loved and that you knew before. And, it just makes it feel like, to me, even though this is just a fictional world, it just felt more epic because of that. And the fact that, Hadrian, as he's telling this story to us as a backstory, as his memoirs, when he's 1,500 years old, I think that's real years, then it just felt like it was really epic to me, and I really enjoyed that. I have heard some people, as far as maybe on the possible bad, that they just don't like the prose, that it's too flowery. We definitely get one thing that I think that Red Rising does, the Vorkosigan Saga, all of those kind of things, where it's kind of funny to me that even though at this point we're 20,000 years in the future, the scholiasts, or the people who are, the learned people, are still quoting, Shakespeare or, Byron, or, the classics from that we today in the 21st century would consider the classics. And I can see that as something that people might not like if you don't enjoy that anyways. It's funny though, because Red Rising does that, the Vorkosigan Saga does that, and there are definitely Vorkosigan Saga Easter eggs that you can see in there. There's multiple. I really enjoyed that. I actually, on a Discord channel, asked a group about that, and Christopher Ruocchio's wife was in that Discord group, and she's like, oh yeah, he loves the Vorkosigan Saga, and there are definitely Easter eggs from the Vorkosigan Saga in there. Even one of the planets, like the mystical planet they're supposed to be finding, is called Vorgosis. And so I just thought that it was that it was fun. I really like Easter eggs, as a personal preference. I don't know why I always have. I think it's one of those things that it doesn't hurt people to have those inside jokes if you don't know the inside joke, but if you do, then it's something that just draws me in even more. But maybe that flowery language doesn't work for you. In this case, it worked for me. I do want to say that I probably 60 to 70% of all three of these books so far that I'm through have been audiobooks. It has just a wonderful narrator in the audiobooks. I've also, I still enjoyed reading it. I've probably read somewhere around like 500 to 600 pages between the three books. And then, we're talking like 2,100-ish pages between them total. So the 2/3 roughly audiobook. Audiobooks are great. They have a British narrator. And that's kind of how I would have imagined Hadrian Marlowe anyways. It is funny thing though, so most of the noble houses, it was supposed to be like the House of Windsor, right? So the British nobility. But I've always thought it's funny that when you deal with this, and I think Red Rising does the same thing, where it's always funny to me that that you get that European nobility as the ones that are in charge. But I've always kind of thought that the Europeans don't seem like the ones that would be conquering things in this case. It would be China, the United States, or whatever, right? But I don't think there's a whole lot of references to the old United States even in this case. We do get Japan. They've got the Nipponese emperor. But just all in all, really love, personally, everything works for me. The whole, it's fun. It's entertaining. Are there probably tons of scientific inaccuracies if we're worrying about that? Maybe. I'm not trying to break it down because of that. The antimatter swords, they've got shields. People do, all the kind of things. I just found it every bit of it entertaining to me. I know that I didn't really follow any of my normal the good, the bad, my thoughts. I basically went straight to my thoughts and all that. But like I said, I loved every bit of this. I think that if you like space operas, if you like Red Rising, if you like the Vorkosigan Saga, then this is going to be something that you're definitely going to enjoy. It's the same kind of style. But if you don't like space operas, then this is as space opera-y as it gets as far as that genre goes. So you're not going to enjoy that if you don't. But basically, I found it to be like Red Rising on an even more epic scale, right? Instead of just dealing with our solar system, we're dealing with, like the entire galaxy or multiple galaxies. And, I think that in book 3, Hadrian's in his early to mid 100s as far as age goes, but we've gone 500 years into the future at this point. And, I haven't really talked a ton about the Sealson because, I think we don't learn all that much about them in book 1. We learn a whole lot more about them personally in book 2, but they are definitely alien. And it's one thing that Hadrian really has a hard time understanding because he's going to try to think of them, in human emotions and as if they were human. And he's going to find out, that they're very, very different, even as he strives to make peace throughout this first book. The book blurb is funny because, I think it gives things away in a sense that, we know that he's going to eventually wipe out the Sealson. That's what the first book blurb says, right? We know that he's lived through all of this stuff, but I still found that didn't bother me in any way, shape, or form, knowing that. Kind of like how Robin Hobb does with Fitz, right? Where we know he lives through all the things. I will say this, Christopher Ruocchio definitely abuses Hadrian at times, but I don't think he goes to the almost sadistic level that I think Robin Hobb takes her abuse of Fitz, because we know he lives through everything. It's just wonderful. I really enjoyed, even though this is only a single point of view book, that everything is being written, through Hadrian's viewpoint. I found that like the secondary characters are really good as well. I really enjoy that we get to see like people from different empires, different races. The Americanii are going to be crazy. Just all in all, like I said, every bit of it I enjoyed. I loved this book. I've loved book 2 and book 3. And I plan on getting all 5, I think there's 6 maybe now, 5 or 6 of the books. I plan on making sure that I do all of those this year, because I'm just enjoying myself so much. Important note, if you're still watching this video at this point, the first 2 audiobooks are currently free on Audible, and they have been for a couple of months. So I hope that they continue being that way. But just in case, might be a good idea to pick them up just to give it a shot, see if you enjoy it. I mean, it's not going to cost you any money at the moment. I'll get those first 2. I, at this point, have now bought the rest of them, and I've bought the ebooks on all of them. So apparently that being free sure didn't hurt Christopher Ruocchio's sales when it comes to me. All right, that's enough rambling on about this series that I just could keep talking about over and over again. I actually hope to go on the Beard of Darkness's channel at some point here, not too long, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit. Thank you, everyone. I'll just having such a great time. If you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel, and we'll keep growing this. Have a wonderful day. Thanks.